What do you do when you want to be desired? You speak, you explain, you offer clarity, you try to make her feel safe, understood, secure in the fantasy that you are different from the others. You send the long messages, you tell her what you want, you define the connection before it has defined you, and in doing so, you make the single greatest error a man can make in the early moments of power. You become understood, and what is understood is no longer feared, what is predictable is no longer pursued. What is known in full becomes disposable. You were taught that honesty wins hearts, that if you open up, she'll see your soul and protect it. But this teaching has destroyed more men than it has protected, because she does not crave the man she can solve. She craves the one she cannot map, cannot explain, cannot predict. And every time you give her more certainty, more transparency, more good intentions, you kill the very mystery that sustains her emotional appetite. Machiavelli understood this long before your modern dating gurus ever sold you scripts. He warned that a ruler must never reveal the whole of himself, because those who know your heart will one day use it to cut your throat. The same applies here. When she knows your intention too early, she loses tension. When she knows your thoughts, she stops dreaming. When she feels she has decoded you, she files you away. And a man who has been emotionally filed away is already forgotten. Do not speak to win her. Speak to destabilize her. Speak to reveal nothing, to deepen the mystery, to leave her wondering what your silence meant, what your words concealed. The most powerful man in her mind is not the one who answered all her questions, but the one who became the question itself. This chapter begins with a mirror. Ask yourself, how many times have you said too much? How many times have you tried to explain your way into desire, only to find it slipping away the moment she understood your heart? You were not too emotional. You are too easy to read, too available, too clear, and in clarity there is no conflict, and without conflict there is no obsession. You must reframe everything. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be unresolved. You are not the closure to her story. You are the plot twist that rewrites her understanding of herself. She must leave the interaction questioning her value, not confirming yours. That is how you reverse the emotional current. That is how you switch from being chosen to being remembered. So the first law is this: never be fully known. Let her see fragments, angles, reflections, but never the full shape. You are not her answer. You are her mirror, her test, her echo, her silence. If she ever looks at you and says, "I think I know what he wants," you have failed. The prince remains unreadable. The powerful remain undecoded. The unforgettable remain unsolved. The man she obsesses over is not the one who gives her answers. He is the one who gives her confusion, strategically designed confusion. The first trigger Machiavelli would use today, in your place, is the weaponization of contradiction. Not by accident, but by calculation. Not by chaos, but by control. He would fragment your identity into pieces she cannot assemble, because what cannot be assembled cannot be dismissed. It must be studied. It must be questioned. It must be chased. You are not meant to be a monolith. You are not meant to be simple, pure, emotionally digestible. You are meant to be one thing today, another tomorrow, warm in the morning, cold by night, available one week, absent the next. Not because you are unstable, but because you are ungraspable. In this dissonance, she does not grow bored, she grows hooked. Her mind begins the loop. Did I misread him? Did I say something wrong? Was he really into me? And in this internal chaos, she bonds deeper than any conversation ever could achieve. Think of the rulers Machiavelli admired, men who were both loved and feared, trusted and doubted, visible and yet unknowable. Cesare Borgia, for instance, could extend mercy and cruelty in the same breath, creating awe because no one knew which part of him they'd meet. His power did not come from consistency. It came from duality, from being a puzzle no man, and certainly no woman, could solve. Apply this now. When she expects a reply in seconds, let her wait hours. When she assumes silence, drop a single ambiguous message that says nothing but makes her wonder everything. When she expects praise, give challenge. When she craves certainty, give ambiguity. Fragment yourself. Be multiple things, never one. Be unpredictable, not chaotic. The distinction is critical. You must understand this. Women do not chase clarity. They chase significance. And nothing feels more significant than the man they cannot fully understand. The one who opens the door and closes it without warning. The one who is kind, but never soft. intimate but never exposed, present but never explainable. Fragmentation is not about becoming fake, it is about revealing different facets, never the full diamond. If she sees every side of you, the shine is gone, but if she catches glimpses, one angle today, another tomorrow, she begins to chase the light. She begins to chase you. Let her see the leader and the mystery, the humor and the cold silence, the charm and the distance. Let her try to solve what has no solution, and in that unsolvable tension, she bonds herself to your enigma. Do not let her summarize you. Do not let her label you. Do not let her figure you out, because the man who is figured out is the man who is filed away, but the one she can never fully read is the one who never leaves her mind. Silence, when used poorly, is passivity, but when used with precision, it becomes a weapon more powerful than any declaration. The man who speaks to be heard is a slave to validation. The man who knows when to say nothing, even when the moment begs for words, that is the man who takes root in her psyche and never leaves. Strategic silence is not about withdrawing in weakness. It is about withdrawing to create weight, to turn your absence into a gravitational force. Machiavelli understood this implicitly. In The Prince, he praises rulers who conceal intention, who speak only when the outcome is certain, who leave their subjects guessing not just what they'll do, but what they mean. Silence, to him, was not emptiness, it was political pressure. When you are silent, the other must interpret, and interpretation breeds tension. Tension breeds attention. Attention, when starved, becomes obsession. Now apply this in the realm where your status is tested most. Romantic pursuit. When she flirts with sarcasm, you do not return it, you let it hang in the air. When she sends a dry message, you do not chase, you vanish. When she asks, "What are we?" you give no answer, because every answer collapses the mystery. You let silence speak, and in speaking nothing, you become the loudest presence in her emotional world. But silence must be calibrated. Too soon, and it signals fear. Too late, and it loses force. The key is to inject it at the peak, when she's leaning in, when she wants certainty, when she expects reaction. That is when you stop giving. That is when she starts questioning, and that questioning is not pain, it's power. Because she isn't trying to understand herself, she's trying to understand you. And here is the Machiavellian inversion most men never grasp. He who explains, obeys. He who withholds, rules. When she demands clarity and you give her none, you're no longer reacting to her game. You've made her the player in yours. You've inverted the frame. Strategic silence also forces her into self-confrontation. She replays the last thing she said. She scrolls through the last texts. She wonders if she misread something. She questions whether she still has your attention. And in that self-doubt, you live. You live not as a man, but as a shadow, a mystery, a puzzle left unsolved. This is why silence, placed correctly, creates more emotion than constant presence ever could. Most men believe value comes from being consistent, emotionally available, expressive. But value and desire does not come from being present. It comes from being missed. So become the silence that haunts the room after you leave. Let her learn that words can be ignored, but a well-placed silence? That's unforgettable. Certainty kills desire. Ambiguity resurrects it. Every man who seeks to be understood too quickly, who clarifies his intentions, who rushes to resolve tension, dies in her mind long before he's ever remembered. He becomes safe, he becomes familiar, and worst of all, he becomes easy. But the man who understands the power of controlled ambiguity, he becomes a question with no answer, a mirror with no reflection, a presence that breeds fixation. Controlled ambiguity is not about confusion for confusion's sake. It is about shaping an emotional environment where she must work to understand you, where every glance, every delay, every unanswered message feels like a coded signal. You must become interpretable, but never clear. She must think she knows you one moment, and question that confidence the next. That inconsistency is not weakness. It's the source of her emotional investment. Machiavelli would approve. He wrote that the prince must seem virtuous, but never be bound by virtue. He must present himself as trustworthy, yet never reveal his inner workings. Because clarity makes you a servant to the expectations of others. But ambiguity makes you sovereign. When no one can tell where you stand, they begin to stand around you, orbiting your mystery like satellites around a star. In the game of seduction, this ambiguity is everything. You give her warmth one day, pull back the next. You flirt with honesty, but not confession. You mirror her energy, but add 1 degree of distance. When she asks, "What are we?" you smile without answering. When she says, "You're hard to read," you agree. When she assumes, you never correct, because the man who never clarifies is the man who is never dismissed. Here is the emotional truth. A woman cannot become obsessed with what she has fully grasped. Obsession requires unresolved tension. You must create a space where she fills in the blanks, writes the dialogue, invents the backstory, and in doing so, builds emotional investment without your effort. Let your presence feel like a riddle. Let your vibe contradict your words. Let her second guess every assumption. And in that second guessing, she will begin to associate you not with clarity, but with intensity, with meaning, with mystery. She doesn't want the man who says, "Here's what I feel. Here's what I want. Here's what I think." She wants the one who leaves the door cracked just enough for her to wonder what lies behind it. So be agreeable, but unreadable. Be warm, but undefined. Be close, but never finished. Because the second she thinks she knows you, she files you away. But as long as she can't quite solve you, she'll never stop looking. Nothing awakens obsession faster than absence delivered at the height of presence. Most men think affection wins her heart. They smother, they stay close, they answer every message, show up on every call, become emotionally available before any demand is made. But what they fail to understand is that presence without withdrawal is noise, and the man who never leaves cannot be longed for. Timed absence is not ghosting. It is not passive aggression. It is not childish silence. It is a deliberate removal of energy at the moment of peak emotional interest. You vanish not because you are uncertain, but because you are powerful. You deny her the reward of consistency, and in doing so, you teach her to value your return like a sovereign re-entering his domain. Machiavelli taught that a ruler must never become familiar to the point of contempt. He must be seen, then unseen, heard, then missed, loved, then feared, never all at once. The ruler who is too available becomes mundane. But the one who withdraws, who creates gaps, who knows when to remove himself without excuse or explanation, he becomes magnified in absence. So how do you apply this? After a moment of emotional connection, after a night where her eyes held yours longer than usual, after a date where the atmosphere thickened, you disappear. You don't follow up, you don't reassure, you don't congratulate yourself with a text that says, "Last night was amazing." You become silent. You let her feel the burn of emotional uncertainty. This absence does something no presence ever could. It creates space for projection. She fills in the silence with questions. She replays your words. She searches for signals. And in that psychic echo chamber, your value increases without you lifting a finger. You're not just a man she saw. You're the man she now has to figure out alone. And here's what makes timed absence even more potent: the return. When you reappear, you do not explain where you went. You do not apologize for the quiet. You carry the same poise, the same detachment, the same calm. Because absence is not about drama. It's about demonstrating that you move on your time, not hers. This is the critical mistake most men make. They either disappear too soon and seem insecure, or they stay too long and become background noise. But when absence is timed, when it's placed like a dagger at the heart of emotional momentum, it doesn't repel her, it hooks her. So master this law. Do not always be present. Be missed. Withdraw with precision. Reappear without explanation. Let your absence do what your words cannot. Because obsession doesn't start when she sees you again. It starts the moment she realizes you're gone. She will try to define you. She will ask what you want. She will hint at what this is. She will search your eyes for certainty, scan your tone for signals, and watch your silences for meaning. Why? Because the moment she defines you, she feels safe. And the moment she feels safe, she no longer needs to chase. Her obsession dies the second her mind believes it understands you. So you must do what almost no man has the strength to do: refuse definition. This is not cruelty, it is design. Obsession requires uncertainty. Mystery is the mother of desire. The man who defines himself, explains his role, outlines his emotions and expectations. He removes the space where tension lives. And Machiavelli knew, when a ruler defines his true intentions, he gives his enemies the knife to cut his future open. You too must guard your shape. When she asks what this is, you turn the question back. What do you think it is? When she wonders if you're looking for something serious, you say, I'm looking for something that feels right. When she pushes for emotional exposure, you give emotional presence, not confession. Be warm without being legible. Be engaged without being labeled. Be intimate without being caged. Let others become boyfriends. Let others hand over their label in exchange for validation. You are the question she can't stop asking. You are the silhouette in her memory that doesn't match her past. You are the one man who forced her to feel without ever declaring a thing. There is a reason Machiavelli wrote that power lies more in appearances than in truths. Appear virtuous, appear consistent, appear involved, but never state who you are. Never settle the mystery. Because she is not addicted to answers. She is addicted to wondering. And so long as she is wondering, you are winning. The final frame is this. She cannot chase a man who is already caught. She cannot study a man who already told the story. She cannot obsess over a man who already defined himself. So you remain beyond the final page, beyond the full sentence. You remain the unsolved riddle, the open tab, the man whose eyes hold something she still can't name. Be calm, be controlled, but above all, be undefined. Let her call you confusing. Let her say you're mysterious. Let her tell her friends you're hard to read, because the man she can't define is the one she can't delete. You were raised to believe clarity earns love, that if you show your heart, explain your thoughts, define your role, and offer security, you will be valued. But the truth is colder. The man who is easy to understand is easy to leave. The man who makes sense is the man who loses tension, and the man who gives her certainty too soon is the man she forgets by morning. Obsession is not born in comfort, it is born in confusion. So from this moment forward, you are not here to be chosen. You are not here to be known. You are here to be felt and never fully figured out. You are not her answer. You are her unsolved riddle, her emotional interruption, her beautiful question. And as long as she is questioning, you are winning. Comment below. I became the question. And let every man who still chases applause feel the silence you now control.